The words landed like a slap, but I kept my face calm as I sliced into another piece of prime rib. Around the gleaming mahogany table, the Maxwell Christmas dinner carried on as if Uncle Robert hadn't just announced that I didn't belong. "That's right," Aunt Linda added, lifting her glass with a smirk. "Blood is thicker than water." Double quotes. My cousins Derek and Melissa nodded eagerly. Derek-20-8, unemployed outside the family construction business, lined back with a smug grin. "No offense, Tyler, but when Grandpa built Maxwell Construction, he meant for it to stay in the bloodline." "Exactly," Robert cut in, his voice heavy with the authority he'd polished over for decades of running the company. "We've been talking as a family, and we've decided leadership roles must stay with true Maxwells. Not," he waved his hand toward me, "charity cases." I lifted my glass of water and smiled. I completely understand what they didn't understand. Was that their so-called charity case had been bankrolling their lifestyle for the past 3 years. My adoption was old family gossip when I was 7. My parents died in a car crash, and my mother's sister aunt, Margaret, took me in. Margaret welcomed me as her own, but Robert never hid his disdain. "We're raising you out of duty to your mother," he reminded me often. Don't forget it. How could I forget? It resurfaced every holiday, every gathering, every success. When I graduated as valedictorian, well, we paid for enough tutors. When I earned a full ride to MIT, lucky break. Probably helps being a minority case study. When I launched a tech startup at 23, he'll come back to reality soon enough. But I never came back down. Instead, I built Meridian Technologies into a $2.8 billion powerhouse in construction management software and IoT systems, serving nearly every major builder in the state, including Maxwell Construction itself. What Robert didn't know, what none of them knew, is that 3 years ago, when his reckless Florida expansion nearly bankrupted Maxwell Construction, a mysterious investor had rescued the company. That investor was me, through Meridian Capital, my investment firm. I funneled $50 million into their sinking ship, erased their debt, and modernized their operations with my software. They went from losing $12 million annually to clearing $18 million in profit. Robert, of course, took the glory. He claimed his visionary leadership had saved the company, paraded a new BMW, bought a vacation home in Aspen, and handed out fat bonuses to his wife and children, none of whom actually worked. Derek drifted in late, left early, and spent most of his time on social media. Melissa clung to an unused MBA and a title she hadn't earned. Robert himself mostly lived on the golf course, while the professional managers I'd installed quietly ran everything. "Tyler's awfully quiet," Aunt Linda teased. Topping off her glass, "Cat got your tongue." "Just enjoying the family discussion," I said. "Speaking of family," Robert announced, leaning forward, "we've made some decisions about the company's future. Derek will step in as VP of Operations next month. Melissa will handle finance, and Linda will head human resources." Melissa practically glowed. "Finally, I'll get to use my MBA. What about Tyler?" Aunt Margaret asked softly, the only one who'd ever truly treated me like family. Robert's eyes hardened. "Tyler has his own little ventures. His computer business keeps him busy." "It's not just a computer business," Margaret countered. "Tell them about the award." Tyler. I'd recently made Forbes 30 Under 34, transforming the construction tech industry. But I hadn't mentioned it. "No point fueling their jealousy. It's not important," I said. "See?" Robert declared. "Tyler knows his place. He's done well for himself considering where he came from. But Maxwell Construction is about legacy. We need people invested in the Maxwell name." The irony was delicious. I was more invested than any of them, literally, to the tune of $50 million. I couldn't agree more. I said. Derek leaned back, savoring his triumph. "Finally, the company will have real leadership." "Real leadership," I echoed. "That's exactly what it needs." After dinner, while the others gathered in the living room to scheme about their grand vision, I helped Margaret clear dishes. Through the doorway, I could hear Robert boasting about how they were going to revolutionize the industry with their brilliant strategies. "Tyler, Margaret whispered. I don't agree with any of this. It's okay, I assured her. No, it isn't. You're more family than any of them. You're the only one who calls me, who visits, who remembers my birthday. Family isn't blood, I said. It's who shows up when it matters. Exactly, Anne. You always do. What she didn't realize was that I'd been showing up in ways no one could see. Melissa's over-budget wedding, quietly covered. Derek's gambling debts, secretly paid. Robert's denied heart surgery bills, mysteriously reapproved. I had been holding the Maxwell family together for years, just as Margaret once held me. The difference was I did it in silence, without recognition. And still, they denied me a seat at their table. Would you like me to keep this in a narrative storytelling style dramatic? Novel-like? Or should I smooth it further into a sharp corporate revenge tone colder? More businesslike. Family table. I stayed for another hour, listening to them plan their takeover of the company I'd saved. Derek outlined his vision for streamlining operations. It mostly involved firing the competent people I'd hired and replacing them with his friends. Melissa discussed optimizing cash flow, which seemed to mean giving themselves larger salaries. Uncle Robert presided over it all like a king dividing his kingdom, never suspecting that his kingdom only existed because of the charitable case, sitting quietly in the corner. At 9 p.m., I made my excuses and left. The next morning, I was in my office by 7 a.m. Meridian Technologies occupied 3 floors of a downtown high-rise with views of the city skyline and the mountains beyond. My corner office was minimalist but comfortable, the kind of space that said, successful without being ostentatious. I spent an hour reviewing the quarterly reports for all my investments, including Maxwell Construction. The company was performing well, largely because of the management team I'd installed and the technology infrastructure I'd provided. Without my continued investment, they'd last about 18 months before the old problems resurfaced. At 8:30 a.m., I called my investment manager. Sarah, it's Tyler. I need you to initiate a complete divestiture from Maxwell Construction. The construction company, Tyler. That's been one of our most successful turnarounds. They're showing consistent profits, good management, strong market position. I know, but I want out. Can I ask why? If this is about portfolio diversification, there are other options. It's personal. Sarah had been managing my investments for 5 years. She knew better than to argue when I said something was personal. How quickly do you want this done? Today, full withdrawal of all capital, termination of all contracts, complete severance of business relationships. Tyler, that's $50 million in investments, plus ongoing contracts worth another $20 million annually. Are you sure about this? I'm sure. I'll need a few hours to structure this properly. The contracts have specific termination clauses, and we'll need to give them the required notice periods. How much notice for the investment withdrawal? We can do it immediately. It's structured as callable debt. For the contracts, most have 30-day termination clauses. Do it. This is going to cause some serious disruption for them. I know. After I hung up, sat back in my chair and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, Uncle Robert was probably arriving at his office, ready to start his first day as the undisputed king of Maxwell Construction. Derek was probably planning his first streamlining meeting. Melissa was probably designing new business cards with her VP title. None of them had any idea that their kingdom was about to crumble. My phone rang at 10:15 a.m., Tyler. Sarah, I've initiated the withdrawal. Their bank should be notifying them within the hour. What about the contracts? Termination notices will be delivered by courier this afternoon. All technology support will cease in 30 days. All consulting agreements are terminated and the software licenses will revert to limited basic functionality. And the management team, the executives we place there, are employed through our consulting division. They'll be reassigned to other projects. Perfect. Tyler, I have to say this company is going to be in serious trouble without our support. Are you prepared for that? They wanted to run things themselves. Now, they'll get their chance. My phone started ringing again at 11:30. A.M. Uncle Robert's number flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. He called back immediately, voicemail again. Then Derek called, voicemail. Then Melissa, voicemail. Then Aunt Linda, voicemail. Finally, Aunt Margaret called. Tyler, what's happening? Robert called me in a panic. He says their bank called about some loan being called in. I couldn't say. I replied honestly. He's saying something about $50 million. That's impossible, right? I mean, where would they even get that kind of loan? You'd have to ask him. Tyler, Robert wants to talk to you. He says it's urgent. He's beside himself. I'll think about it. I didn't call him back. Instead, I went to lunch with a potential client, spent the afternoon reviewing proposals for new investments, and had dinner with Aunt Margaret at her favorite restaurant. She didn't mention the family business crisis, and neither did I. My phone had 17 missed calls by the time I got home the next morning. Uncle Robert was waiting in my office lobby when I arrived at 7 a.m. Tyler, thank God. We need to talk. He looked terrible. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his expensive suit was wrinkled, and his face was pale with exhaustion. Uncle Robert, this is a surprise. Tyler, I need your help. Something terrible has happened. I led him to my office. Noting how his eyes widened as he took in the scope of my business, the busy trading floor visible through glass walls, the expensive art, the panoramic city views. Tyler, I had no idea your business was. I mean, this place is... What can I do for you, Uncle Robert? He sat down heavily in the chair across from my desk. Our main investor has pulled out. $50 million gone just like that. And our technology contracts have been terminated. The software systems that run our entire operation were losing access in 30 days. That's terrible. It's worse than terrible. It's a disaster. Without that investment, we can't meet our obligations. Without the software, we can't manage our projects. The company is going to collapse. What do your lawyers say? They say the contracts were written to allow exactly this kind of termination. Whoever structured this deal was very smart. There's no legal recourse. I'm sorry to hear that. Uncle Robert leaned forward desperately. Tyler, I know we haven't always. I know I can be difficult sometimes, but you're family. We're family, and family helps family. Are we family? Of course we are, because last Sunday you made it very clear that family business is only for real family, not adopted kids like me. The color drained from his face. Tyler, I didn't mean you said blood is thicker than water. You said the company should stay in the bloodline. I was wrong. I was completely wrong, were you? Or are you just saying that because you need something from me? Uncle Robert was now sweating despite the air conditioning. Ty, I'll be honest. We need help. Serious help. I don't know what kind of connections you have in your business, but if you could introduce us to some investors. Yes, someone who might be willing to step in where this other company pulled out. I opened my laptop and pulled up the Meridian Capital website. You mean someone like this? I turned the screen so he could see it. Meridian Capital's homepage showed our portfolio, our investment strategy, and our recent successes, including Maxwell Construction. Uncle Robert squinted at the screen. Meridian Capital. Wait, that name sounds familiar. They were your mystery investor. You know them? I am them. Meridian Capital is my investment firm. Uncle Robert stared at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. That's impossible. I own Meridian Technologies, which owns Meridian Capital, which invested $50 million in Maxwell Construction 3 years ago. You, me, but, that would mean, it means I saved your company. I restructured your debt, installed professional management, provided the technology systems that made you profitable, and turned you from a failing business into a success story. Uncle Robert's mouth opened and closed without sound. It also means I continued that when you told me family business is only for real family. You were talking to the person who owns 60% of your family business, Tyler. I had no idea. Of course you didn't. You never asked what I actually do for a living. You just assumed I was playing around with computers. This is incredible. You built all this, I built all this, while you were taking credit for turning the company around. I was the one actually doing it. Uncle Robert was now openly crying. Tyler, I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry. I was wrong about everything. Yes, you were. Can you put the investment back? Can we fix this? Why would I do that? Because we're family. 2 days ago, I wasn't family. I was an adopted kid who didn't belong. What changed? I changed. I was wrong. I see that now. Tyler wiped his eyes on his sleeve. I know I don't deserve your help, but this isn't just about me. Derek, Melissa, Linde, they all have families. And don't forget, the company employs 247 people. Every one of those families relies on Maxwell Construction. I know, I replied evenly. I've been carrying those families for the past 3 years. Then you understand what's at stake. I leaned back, studying my uncle. He looked hollow, broken, nothing like the commanding patriarch who had presided over Christmas dinner. Just 2 days ago, here's what's going to happen. I said at last. Uncle Robert's eyes lifted with a flicker of hope. Maxwell Construction will collapse within 6 months without my support. When it does, I'll buy out the assets for pennies on the dollar. Tyler, no. I'll rename it Meridian Construction. I'll keep every employee who wants to stay with better pay and benefits. And I'll finally run it the way it should have been run all along. His voice cracked. What about us? What about the family? Derek and Melissa are expecting promotions. Linda depends on her income. I've poured everything I have into this company. Derek will be dismissed in the first week. He's incompetent and lazy. Melissa can apply for an entry-level role if she wants to truly learn the business. Linda can apply as well, but she'll need actual qualifications, not just the family name. And you can apply for a foreman's position. That is, if you're willing to work for a living. He stared at me, stunned. You can't be serious. I'm dead serious. You insisted this be a family business, run by blood alone. Well, congratulations. That's exactly what you'll get. Tyler, please. We can work this out. I'll make you a partner, give you the respect you deserve. I don't want partnership. And I don't need your respect. What I want is for you to know what it feels like to be on the outside, looking in. What do you want from me then? I want you to admit what you did wrong. I already said I was sorry. No, you apologized because you need my money. I want you to admit the truth. Robert fell silent for a long moment, then whispered, I treated you like you weren't family. Keep going. I made you feel unwelcome at gatherings. Keep going. I dismissed your achievements, assumed your success wasn't real. And I never gave you credit for what you accomplished. What else? His voice broke. I never thanked you for the times you helped us, the anonymous gifts. The bills that somehow got paid. The crises that just disappeared. I know that was you. How do you know? Because you're the only one in this family who genuinely cares about others. The only one who'd help without demanding recognition, and I threw it all away because I was threatened by your success. I was jealous that the adopted kid accomplished more than any of us. I let his confession hang in the air. There's one more thing. What? You're going to call Derek, Melissa, and Linda. You're going to tell them exactly what happened and exactly who I am. And you're going to apologize for lying about this being a blood and ollie business? That would humiliate me. Yes, it will. Robert nodded slowly. If you do that, then we'll discuss restructuring the investment. But the terms, the management, the family dynamic, everything changes. What kind of terms? I'll own 80% of the company. Derek and Melissa can earn back equity through performance, not entitlement. Linda can apply for a real position like anyone else. Management will be professional, chosen by me. And family dynamics. We start over as equals who respect each other's contributions. Robert was quiet again before finally asking, Why did you help us all those years, even when we treated you so badly? Because Aunt Margaret taught me that family isn't about blood. It's about showing up when people need you even when they don't deserve it. Especially then. Robert rose to his feet slowly. I'll make those calls. Good. And Uncle Robert T.S., I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago. I watched him shuffle toward the elevator, smaller and older than he'd ever seemed before. My phone buzzed. It was Sarah, no doubt calling to ask if I'd lost my mind. But I hadn't. I'd learned something important about family. Sometimes people need to lose everything before they can see what they already had. And sometimes the adopted kid becomes the one who saves them all. 3 months later, Meridian Construction was thriving. Robert worked as a project foreman and, for the first time in years, actually enjoyed honest labor. Derek had been fired just as promised. Melissa, though, flourished in an entry-level role, learning the business from the ground up. And every Sunday I sat down to dinner with Aunt Margaret, who always kept a chair waiting for me because she had always known that family isn't where you come from. It's who you keep showing up for, again and again. Do you want me to tighten this into a sharper, more corporate drama style? Or keep the family redemption, emotional weight heavy like I've done here? Do you, or do you just see that you need my money?